Hey everyone. Hello, hello. Welcome to this video creative challenge. I'm your host, Fabiola Lara. I'm an illustrator and I'm a content creator. And today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite things in Premiere Pro. It's how to record a voiceover and generate auto captions. This is a game changer if you're editing for social media because it's like the fastest way to get auto captions that you can then use in so many different ways. Let's go jump over to my desktop so I can show you exactly what we're working with today. I want to show you this example that I have set up. And remember, you can actually download the project files and open this up and edit alongside me if you want, or you can edit after you watch this video, however you choose. Make sure you get those files. Okay, so we're on my desktop. Here we go. And so let me show you what the result is, and then I'll show you how we get there. So set an out point right here. Okay, so let me play this through. This is a little reel I put together, and yes, let me make sure I'm not. Okay, here we go. Sketchbook time. There we go. Today in my sketchbook, I am trying out these new Ecoline watercolor inks because when I originally made this drawing, I made it with markers, and so I wanted to test it out using the watercolor inks. And I got such a smoother finish using these inks. The color is way more even than markers, and no one is surprised. But I loved it, and I was able to use my pastel pencils right over it, no problem, didn't even have to wait. And that's what I like to do with my time. All right, guys. So that's a little example. As you could see throughout that 30-second reel or TikTok, vertical video, let's say, the captions were just automatically playing alongside my voiceover. So seamless. You don't even have to think about it. It just works. So let me show you how you do that. So when you have, I'm going to jump over. I have quite a few sequences generated here. If you download the project files, you'll see them. I'm going to open the start one, because this is where you would be in your project where you might want to start recording voiceover. So you have your sequence generated, you have your clips in place, and now you're thinking, it's time to record some voiceover. How do I do that? What do I use? How do I get that going? Well, I'm about to answer all your questions. So what you have to do, I'm going to press Opт-X to clear my in and out points on my timeline. And I'm just going to record my voiceover. So I have it recorded here, right, for our purposes, but I'm just going to mute that. I'm going to add it. So if you right click on a track, you can add a track and you can select where to add that. So I'm going to say after video 3. Okay, so now I have another audio track down here. You saw how that popped up. And so I'm going to mute the voiceover that I already created so I can show you how to create that. So once you're here and you know that you're ready to record a voiceover, you just want to move your playhead to where you want to start recording. So if you want to record starting here, if you only want to record the outro, you only want to record the intro, move your playhead there and then get started. So I'm going to say I'm going to record here. And then you want to click this little voiceover record button, and that's going to start recording. But before you move into actually recording, I want to review a couple of settings with you that might trip you up. Because if you don't check your settings, this whole thing might not work, and then you'll be frustrated. And I don't want you to have to experience that, okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to go over here to Premiere Pro, Preferences, Audio Hardware. Now, I'm not going to mess with this because I'm recording for you and I don't want that to get messed up, but you want to double check that your default input and default output are correct, okay? Because then it's actually picking up what you want. So if I didn't have that selected, it'd probably be going to my MacBook microphone, which is just going to sound not as good as this one right here. And then the other thing, this is actually one of the most important things that I think if you don't automatically do, you're going to be so frustrated. You have to click over here to audio, and you absolutely have to make sure you select this setting right here, mute input during timeline recording. If you don't have this checked, you're going to feel crazy because while you're recording, it's going to be playing it. And so you're going to hear yourself twice, the time that you're recording and the time that it's playing it back to you. And so it's going to be really tough for you to focus on what you're recording if you have all that noise up in your headphones. So definitely check that. If you record without checking this, you'll know immediately because you're going to be stunned. Okay. So make sure you check that. Once you have that, you're ready to record. Okay, so to record, you actually just hit this voiceover record button and it's going to do a little countdown. So let me blow this up for you so you can see what we're actually doing. Okay. Okay, so I'm just moving things around for you visually. So once you're here, to start recording, once again, you just click this. So I'm going to click it. And then to stop recording, you press the space bar. So I'm going to just record something. Sketchbook time. La, 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 la. Here's where you record your thing. I don't have that script memorized because I was speaking it. So this is just an example of when you would actually record. And when you feel like you're done recording, you just hit spacebar and you're done. And you immediately can see that it's working. Let's play that back. The beautiful recording back. And something that you can do is mute other tracks. So that way you can really single out the one that you just recorded. Or alternatively, you could solo the track that you're on. That will play only that one. So there's a couple ways to do it. La, 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 la. Here's where you record your thing. I don't have. All right, that's enough of that. You get the gist of it. That's where you record. Now, a couple other settings I want to run you through before we move on. On the track that you're recording, you can also go ahead and right click right next to that microphone and you'll get this little menu. So you can click voice over record settings and that's going to show you again, it's going to show you your source, your input. And so you can double check your settings and it's going to have these little selections for you. So you can do countdown sound cue. So you can actually get a video cue, a visual cue of when it's time to record. So to go 3, 2, 1, and then you'll see recording, that red record bar. I'll show it to you one more time. And you can select for how long you want that to be. You can get the audio cues, which you heard, the bing, bing, bing. That sound, and a post roll. So when you're done, it'll also show you a little countdown. Let me record one more time to give you an update on that. So you can actually see what I mean. So for vertical, you have to be real zoomed in order to see that countdown. So let's try it one more time. And then you get the red bar after that countdown. So that's how that works. And so I can record right now. And then when I'm done recording, I press space bar. And there it is. Red bar after that countdown. So that's how that works. Okay, so now that I showed you how to record, let's move on to actually auto-generating those captions. Now, let me pop those back on the screen. I deleted them, but I wanted to show you that these tracks, once you record, they just go over here on your project menu. They just start popping up here. Those are those unnamed tracks. You can double click on them and name them. So if you want to rename them and keep your stuff tidy, and I recommend making a folder just for your voiceover tracks. So you can select them and drag them into the voiceover bin as you work on this project. Now, before I get too into the project management of it all, let me show you how to actually generate those captions automatically. So, well, just a quick, while we're here, to actually create that bin, it's super, super simple. So you just go here, new bin, and then you write it. So I'm going to pretend I don't have it there. So I would say for voiceover tracks. And then you can just drag your files in there. So I could move those two back into that folder if I wanted to. So that's how you create a bin with those items. For our sake, we're not going to be using those tracks because I already created a properly scripted out one, where I actually say something valuable that pertinent to this video instead of like my instructional voiceover. Okay, so now that we have, so this is where we're at, and this is where you should be. You should have already recorded your voiceover, and now you have that track. So for our purposes, that's this track right here. Let me just play that through a little bit so you know what we are about to create auto captions for. Today in my sketchbook, I am trying out these new Ecoline watercolor inks because when I originally made this drawing, I made it with markers, and so I wanted to test it out using the watercolor inks. And I got such a smoother finish using these inks. The color is way more even than markers, and no one is surprised. But I loved it, and I was able to use my pastel pencils right over it, no problem, didn't even have to wait. So there you go, guys. That's what we're going to be auto captioning. So once you have your voiceover that you just recorded, because I just showed you how to record it, we move into the captioning window. So currently we've been working in the editing workspace. Now we want to go over to the captions workspace. If you're wondering how our workspace even looks like this, I'm just going to repeat it. We are in the editing workspace. If you hit reset to save layout, it'll look exactly like this. But now, because it's time to caption, we're going to move over to the window workspace and then hit captions. And now you hit this workspace, but don't be alarmed. Now, before I move on, I just want to check in with the chat because we are live and I want to see what's going on in the chat. Hey, everyone. Hey, Bruce. Hey, Clever Devlin. Hey, Luda. Hey, Umacorn. Thanks so much for participating and being here, you guys. Auto captions, can you fix them when they are a little off? Yes, I'm going to be showing you exactly how to do that in a second. And yes, some of you guys struggled with that echo. I'm telling you that audio, that little preference setting is key when you are recording voiceovers. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions while we're working on this project, go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'll be sure to get to it. And one other question here. Do I always do voiceover last? I actually do because I want to know what I'm going to voice over. And until I have that like entire sequence and that timeline made, I don't know what I'm going to record. So that's kind of what I do. But I'm going to correct myself. Sometimes when I do like reels or TikToks, I actually record the voiceover first because the script is what's driving kind of the clip. And in that case, I'll auto caption first and edit according to my captions. But maybe that's a lesson for the future. I hope you understood what I was saying, though. That's generally how I do it when I'm creating something that's like driven by the script. Okay, let's get to captioning, you guys. All right, opening up here. Okay, so here you are. You enter the captioning workflow. You're like, what's going on? What do I do here? This is a little bit confusing. Worry not, we are in our project, right? You're in the start. If you're following along with the project files, you're in the start sequence right here, this one. And so you're going to select this sequence, and then you're going to hit this beautiful button that's like ready for us, transcribe sequence, select it. Now, here you get some settings. This is super handy, and I want to make sure we don't overlook these settings because there's some cool stuff in here. So first off, you can choose the language. This is awesome. I've created videos in Spanish, and it's actually done an incredible job capturing the Spanish voiceover. Actually, if I record in Spanish, it captures my name perfectly, which sometimes, because my name's not common in English, it can be tricky. And yeah, it's really cool. And then the other thing is that you can decide to have your audio clips tagged as dialogue. That goes into the essential sound panel, which is really handy. So if it is dialogue, I recommend turning that on. And if it's not dialogue, don't bother. And then the other one here is the audio on track. So this is a really cool feature because you can decide to have the captioning generated for all of the audio that's on this sequence, right? So like you can have a lot of different tracks, right? So these tracks right here, we have right now 4 of them. We could generate the captions for all 4 of them, or we could say only generate it for the audio track 3, which would be this one right here, which is applicable for our project. But we also have a little bit of voiceover on track 2. So I wanted to auto caption track 2 and 3. So I'm just going to say mix the whole thing. It's going to automatically detect the music and not auto caption that. So that works for me. Okay, let's keep going. And then you can say transcribe in point to out point only. So that's handy if you only want to do a small, say you have a really, really, really big sequence and you only want to transcribe a little portion of it. You don't want it to render the whole thing for some reason in the workflow that you're in. You can just mark your in and out points using the I and the O on the keyboard, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with at this point. You can go ahead and do that. And you can also recognize when different speakers are talking, which is really handy when you're doing some sort of interview or you just have multiple people talking in the voiceover or in the audio track, because then it'll automatically detect those speakers and let you rename. And this generates a really cool transcript for YouTube, people? Anyone ever heard of it? You can use these transcriptions for YouTube and stuff like that. So it's super handy. Okay, now moving on from these settings, I had to explain them to you because I really think they're really powerful settings if you pay attention and figure out what you're doing. So, okay, I'm going to say, having said all of that, let's transcribe it, you guys. Then you just hit transcribe and it starts doing all of its magic. This is my favorite part because, well, we only have a 30-second clip, so it's going to be pretty handy. There we go, you guys. Look, here we have our transcript created. There's only one speaker, so it says speaker 1. If you wanted to check out all of the different speakers, it'll actually, like, we don't have a lot to scroll through because this is a pretty short clip. But if there was more to scroll through, it would say speaker 2, speaker 3, blah, blah, blah. And if you click on it, you can edit the speakers and it'll show you right here. And I can simply write, for my purposes for this video, it doesn't really make sense because I know that it's myself and no one else will see that, but just to show you how to edit speakers, that's what you would do right here. And then you click save, and then it shows you the transcript with the updated names. So that's super handy. And then if you actually, for some reason, this little audio clip that I generated, it like, oh no, I just said sketchbook time in a very specific way because I was doing a seamless looping video. And so when you play it through, sketchbook time, it is really quick. So it makes sense that Adobe thinks I said get to a time, but I know I meant sketchbook time. So to correct that, all you have to do is double click and then it'll be like an editable text box. And so you want to highlight what you want to edit. And then you just, like any word processing tool, you just write right over it. So sketchbook time. And then today in my sketchbook, I'm trying out these new Alkaline, Ecoline, watercolor inks, blah, blah, blah. And I got a bunch, and no one is sprays, but I loved it. But you see, that was really the only things that it got wrong. Everything else looks like it was perfect. At the end, because this is a looping video, I'm going to do a ... So it's perfect. That is exactly what I wanted to say. And these are just the transcripts, right? So this isn't the actual captioning. We have one more step to do that. But before we move on, I actually want to show you this cool little trick here. If you click these little 3 dots, you can now export your transcript and you have a couple options. So you can export to a CSV file, which is, I believe, what a lot of like what YouTube uses that you can upload, but a lot of other, I don't know if you have like other ways you distribute your videos. This is handy. If you want to export a text file, that's super handy. Then you can save it wherever you want. And you can export a transcript the same way. So there's a lot of different ways to export this transcript file, and that's really handy. So just a pro tip. If you have a podcast, this is one really cool way to generate transcripts for your podcast automatically. I use it all the time on my podcast, and it's honestly, it's amazing, and it's so fast. Okay, moving on. We're going to hit, now that we're ready, now that our captions look great, we're going to hit create captions. And we have more selections to make. So we want to create from the sequence transcript, not from a blank one. We want to caption preset. So in general, I leave these as default and it'll just like choose a default style. But down the line, once you create a style, you can actually load them. I have some here, but I'm not going to do that yet because you probably don't have them yet. So let's create some first. But aside from these, you can also pick, you have different formats for subtitles, but in general, this is like the standard. I would go with the default. And then once you're here, you can actually pick the maximum length in characters. So I would leave that minimum duration in seconds. So 3 seconds. I usually, honestly, I leave this as default because it's pretty natural this way. But something that is cool to select is if you want a single line or a double line. So in general, I prefer the double line because I want my viewers to be able to read things quickly, right? I don't want to keep them waiting. But sometimes if I know that the clips are really fast and I'm speaking really fast, I'll do single and it'll keep moving. You just have to make sure it's like quick, in general. This is in general social media type of video captioning. If you want to do it in another way, feel free, do you. I recommend, doing however you want to create your videos, go ahead and do that. But I'm just giving you kind of my take on it. So we're going to say double because I want to show you a little trick. So then we're going to hit create. And now it is creating the captions. That was so fast. I was about to answer some questions, but we are moving on. Okay. So now you can see that the captions were generated and they're right up here. You see them? And let me move some things around for you guys. If I pull this down, you can see them here. Let me see if I can zoom in a tiny bit, but actually let me just split up. You see them right there, right? So let's play through a little bit. Today in my sketchbook, I am trying out these new Ecoline watercolor inks because when I originally made this drawing, I made it with markers, and so I wanted to test it out using the watercolor inks. Okay, so there you have, I'm not going to play it all the way through, but you can see it, that it's working. And it's according to, so here we get like the visual representation of the captions on our timeline, and then here on the left, so we were in the transcript, now we're in the captions, and you can actually see the captions timed out. And so when you move your playhead, it will move this panel here as well as your program panel. So just to give you a little understanding of what's going on and how all these things work. Okay, so now that we're here, what we're going to do is play it through. So I'm going to have to zoom in a little just so you guys can see what's happening, because I know there's a lot on the screen. Okay, so that looks good. Today in my sketchbook, maybe I'm going to do it like 25%. Okay, yeah, today in my sketchbook, perfect. So we're going to new Ecoline watercolor inks. Okay, because when so this looks bad, right? It's like too stacked. It's a little bit unorganized. So what we're going to do is if you double click here, you can actually go ahead and just edit this. And that's the best part of these captioning, is that they're totally editable even after you generate the captions. So we want to move this 2 up. Right, yep. I lost it. Okay. So I moved the 2 up and now it looks like a whole paragraph. Now, maybe you're thinking this is too meaty. I want to actually split that. No problem. Hit this split caption and it will split it, right? Like kind of like in the middle or wherever you put your playhead. I like to do it in the middle. So you split it and then it'll duplicate it essentially, right? And what you need to do now is on the first one, you keep the first part, and on the second one that you now split, you keep the second part, but it makes it editable so you can decide exactly when to do it. So I'm going to listen to it. Markers, and so I wanted, so after and so, because I wasn't so eloquent. So I'm going to remove this part. And then on the next one, I want the rest of that sentence. Okay, so I made it with markers, and so I want to test it out. Okay, let's play it through. I made it with markers, and so I wanted to test it out using, and so it wasn't exactly perfect, right? The way I cut it. So you can zoom in, and then you just adjust these like any other clip. I'm gonna select the rightmost seam, essentially, drag it in, and then extend that leftmost edge. And now it should sound good. So I wanted to test it out using the, and so I wanted to test it out using, so that's how you can go ahead and edit those caption timings. Like if you want to change the wording and then you need to adjust the timing, it is totally editable. So you could drag this all the way through. Well, it'll stop you from going over other ones, but like you can move all of them over and then start, doing your own thing like any other clip on your timeline. Do I recommend going crazy with it? No, but I do recommend going through and selecting kind of the captions that are maybe a little dense and just adjusting them. And sometimes, aside from just adjusting like the timing or how much information is in one segment of that caption, sometimes I just change the structure. So like, I don't like when words are by themselves or when it's like top heavy like this. So I'll just like go to, I think like right here and just press enter and make it 2 lines, but make it like a neater 2 lines, like a more even 2 lines. So it's not top weighted. Okay. One more thing before we keep going is to So there's a question is if you can get the brand name transcribed correctly before you go ahead and do it. I don't think that there's a way to do that, but there is a way to just search here. So if you know that it always incorrectly says a word, I'm going to say markers, even though that's a correct word. You can then just replace it with the correct word and replace all of them. And now every time I say markers, it says markers too. Do I want that actually? No, but that's just an example I wanted to give you. So that's what's really handy. Like I know my name sometimes gets spelled wrong and I just know exactly what to search for and I just replace it. It's pretty simple. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you, we're running out of time, but you can also create caption styles. I have some created for you here. And if you select the caption, you can just drop those styles on there. So I'm going to make it gopher style. Click this up arrow and it applies to all the captions on the track. And you can play with creating those. We didn't quite get there today, but we covered so much because captioning in Premiere Pro is so powerful. And I absolutely love doing it. Let me show you this V3. I actually moved all the captions to the top, which is sketchbook. I moved everything to the top, which is really handy when you're working with vertical video. So once again, guys, that was how to create voiceovers and auto-generate captions. If you want to go ahead and follow along with our project files, make sure you do that. And we have a bunch of mentors in the Discord channel. So join the Discord channel and share your projects. And I'm happy to chime in and help you out and give feedback. Thanks once again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Goodbye.